Greetings, everyone. Can anyone hear me out there? Reporting from a non-disclosed location where a select few are able to survive. The world has turned to shit. Cordyceps has infected much of the world, and for those that remain unharmed, have become untrustworthy and animalistic. This is the world myself and two trusted friends will talk about today. The Last of Us, Season 1. What's up, everybody? My name is Serge, aka Serge Gorilla, and I would like to introduce you to my two homies, Kyle and Brian. What's up, y'all?
What's up, man?
You fighting some clickers?
I like that
Yeah,
entrance.
man. I had to rush to get here from the kitchen. I had to rush to get in here.
Welcome. With Season 1 in the books, we wanted to get together and talk about what we thought about the game, the series. They've been preparing this show for a very long time, and now that Season 1 is in the books, I really want to kind of just air it out and let our opinions flow. We got another season on the books. Of course, we got to wait another year for that. Let's start with our first question, right? What was the best moment of the series for you?
For me, it was the top two. I have two moments, but my best, I think it has to be when that one quick scene when they encountered a clicker at the beginning. I think that's episode 2.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was a very, very authentic, and we heard the clicker and we saw him walk in. Shout out to the actor who did it because his movements was just on point, with the game and everything.
The twitchiness.
Yeah, the twitchiness and the quietness. The only disappointment was that in the game you can't shoot a clicker. Pretty much what they were doing in the show. But still overall one of the better action sequences for me.
Was that the one in the museum?
No, remember they were traveling through they ended up at the museum, but they were traveling through some abandoned place.
Okay,
yeah.
Buildings to get to a higher level so they can cross over into the museum or something like that. How about you, Brian? What was your best moment of the series?
I have two moments.
Okay.
So, all right. So the first one, it was the last episode, the finale, when Joel was, just hitting up everybody in the hospital, because that reminded me of the game. Once I saw him be escorted out, I knew what was going to happen. So,
yes,
that to me it reminded me of the game. So I like that a lot. But then I have another moment when Ellie was leaving the burning building, house, or whatever it was,
steakhouse.
Yeah. So, like, to me, you see her shoulders drop, you see her evolution, and
it changes her a lot. Yeah.
And then after that, the next episode, she was like, super quiet and everything.
She was a shell of herself. Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like that moment was like a defining moment for her.
It was. It definitely, from the beginning, there's a level of seriousness that Joel wants to pass on to her. Like, hey, listen, we don't play games. We're gonna do this. You got to listen to me. And then she's still cracking jokes. She's still a smart ass. And then when she barely survived that, and she comes out and she's like hysterical, and just barely surviving, you realize like her serious level changes. And she's affected, and kind of like the same way that Joel was affected in the beginning, where he's just kind of numb.
Yeah,
she seems like very numb because killing somebody changes you, and that scene was very powerful and intense. And man, there was blood everywhere, and she was just in a moment of passion of like just killing the guy, just trying to survive. It was well done. For me to answer that question, man, I like both those scenes right there. I love that final episode and the way they filmed it, where he was just kind of just switching his clips for his gun, picking up guns from the floor from people he's killed. He was just moving in there systematically and working through it. And even when somebody kind of like gave up, he was like, no, I'm going to shoot this guy because they're going to come and get us. I can't leave anybody else to give us problems later. I love that because you definitely got an essence of the.
Oh, well, I would say that it's one of the most accurate scenes from the game, from the series to the game, besides that opening scene when they're driving through the farmland, and you see the burning house and everything in the truck.
Yeah,
it's literally like they may have, like, as far as percentage goes, they got that one was like 98%. My only creative critique would have been I would have liked different music for that scene. I think it was a poor music choice for that scene, but that's about it.
So if I'm gonna besides that one scene, that final scene when he was just going through the hospital, I love that scene where they get backed up. They're leaving the town, and then they fight that guy who's a sniper, and he ends up overtaking him. And then they come with that vehicle just plowing everything down, and they're cornered, and the zombies come out, and they sped it up, so they just sprinted out of that hole. And I was like, oh shit, like this is the first moment where you finally see all these zombies along with a bloater. I was excited. I was excited when I saw that first clicker, and it was just kind of just twitching and acting up and everything. I was like, oh yeah. And it got real close to them. So my favorite moment would be that moment in episode 5 where all the zombies came out, and they were everywhere. They were everywhere. So I love that moment.
I feel like they killed off that I think Karen was her name.
Catherine.
Her right hand. I feel like they killed off her right hand man too soon, or like too. I don't know.
Well, all the villains they did that with. All the villains.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit later, but agreed. We wanted to see more instances with their reign. We wanted to see them go up against them a little bit more. Obviously, when you're playing the game, it's not just a one quick scene thing and they're done. Like you're fighting.
Yeah.
I agree with you with that. All right, let's go on to our next question. How would you rate the game TV series adaptation? So being that this is obviously a game originally, how do you feel that they did? And we spoke about some moments, but how do you think that HBO did with adapting this to a TV series?
I think they did an okay job. And if I had to rate it from 1 to 10, I would say 6.
Okay.
As far as adapting the game was endure and survive. I never felt like they were in a moment where they would not survive. And it looked really peaceful. It looked like they just took a long nature walk, honestly, from one side of the country and to the next. I never felt like they were really in the shit. And the only time I did, it was when they was both captured, you know. But other than that, I thought the game was about survival and creating. I didn't get it. So I think they lost the essence of the game, in my opinion.
Okay. What about you, Bri?
He kind of changed my answer a little bit. So I was going to do a 9, but I think I'm going to drop it to an 8 because what I didn't like, I thought they nailed it for the most part, but I feel like I didn't like those long episodes with like Bill and Frank and then Ellie and Riley. I preferred like flashbacks, kind of like a back and forth, but I didn't like that it took the entire episode.
Definitely.
I cannot agree with you 100 more than I already agree with you, man. I agree with you like 1,000% on that.
Yeah,
man.
Absolutely.
I wanted to know more about what was happening, and then we paused the entire series to find out what happens to Bill and Frank. And at the end of the episode, you pretty much figured out that they killed themselves, and that's it. He left the car for Joel, and they took the car and left. I feel like that was like filler.
Yeah.
So
that's a perfect word for that.
Yeah, and the way that in the final episode in the beginning, how Ellie's mom, that part took only 10 minutes. I feel like if they did that to the other scenes, it would have made the series a lot better. So, so I would give it an 8 for that reason. But I mean, I enjoyed it for the most part, except those episodes. Those were a little too long. I feel like they dragged it out a little bit, but
Definitely.
it was cool. Like I feel like they didn't go exactly how the game went, but one thing, I don't like Ellie's character at all. I don't like.
You don't like the casting?
The actress, no.
Okay.
I do
Bella
I
Ramsey.
do not. No, I do. I like her as an actress, but I didn't like her playing. I just feel like she looks too innocent to me. And then like in the video game, Ellie looks more rebellious, So
okay, that's a good point.
Even though she did a great job being rebellious, I still felt like she looked too innocent to me.
Okay. I mean, there might be some backstory to that because I know that the character Ellie in the game resembled an actress, and there was a lot of like back and forth between that actress and the game, and they were saying no, it just happens to look like you. It looked identical to her, you know. So she was like, "Yo, you guys are basically ripping me off. You're ripping off my likeness." and using it for your game. So maybe they wanted to go in a different direction because of that.
Okay.
You know, but let me answer this question. So how would I rate the game series, right? And I agree with both you guys 100%. What I would rate it, I would give it a 6, a solid 6. And I give it a solid 6 because I have no problem with an adaptation where they change things. But for as long as they make sense, right? If it's part of a greater good. A lot of times we put a lot of trust in the script writing, and if they're doing things a certain way, show me later why you did that. Ultimately, I was disappointed. In the beginning, we had longer episodes. I was excited. Then eventually, then they did the Bill episode. Then they did the those flashback episodes you mentioned, right? And I said this as I was watching. A lot of people were enraged about it. I wasn't as enraged, but I said this: be careful. You have a lot more story to tell. Hopefully, you get it done, right?
Yeah.
But throughout this whole thing, I'm left feeling they took a big part of the game away from us. When I played this game, I was left in amazement of saying, "Holy shit, this is like a movie." As I played the game, but the storyline is deep about relationships, about what people turn into, about all this stuff. But also, we have a whole lot of surviving to do to get there, right? To go through all these towns. They didn't convey that. Everything was kind of felt fast forward, and each town they went to was clear of zombies. It didn't feel like the game in that aspect. They stayed true to many things, but I felt like they lost a big part of it by doing that. They focused on things that artsy wise may be cool, but it's about staying true to its source, right? And I understand they changed the whole aspect of cordyceps being airborne. I understand that, okay, but I feel they did a disservice by forwarding through the show and spending too much time on certain things that they really didn't have to. I think, and from hearing the podcast, they're just trying to really highlight the concept of relationships, and that's what it was. It was a relationship between Bill. It was a relationship between Ellie and her best friend. It's a relationship between Ellie and Joel. Originally, it was like a business thing, and then it became baby girl.
Yeah.
You know, so I have high hopes for the second season. They already put out something saying that we're going to see more zombies in the second one. I hate to compare this. HBO getting this show got me excited. It got me so excited because look, think about what they did with Game of Thrones and all the CGI and storyline and everything that's kind of used there. And then over here, it was like for episode and a half, you got some CGI in this. Like you let us down. So I still enjoyed it, but I was let down.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the reoccurring theme between our conversations while the show was going on was like, yo, did they just waste another episode? Because they still got lot of story to tell.
Exactly.
But yeah, it
I
was
said this.
a
I
bigger
said
disappointment.
exactly that. When after the Bill episode, people were split. I can care less if they were gay. I wanted to see more storyline of how he built up that town to his own. You know, once everyone cleared out of it, I wanted to see about him protecting himself. In the game, Bill actually goes out on a couple missions with Joel. We don't get that. You know, basically he kept his car in perfect condition with batteries and everything, and Joe gets it for one episode and crashes it into a building right the next day. You know, they're like, damn, like that was quick.
Yeah.
Also, I want to mention that Frank never appeared in the game, but he left a note for Bill, and it was such a
they hate each other.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't say nothing nice in the note, and I just thought that was fun. You know, that they went the other way with it in the show.
Yeah. So all right. So let's move on to the next question, and I think this is a important question where it leads to adds to the storyline. So this is a very powerful episode 5 with Sam. I loved his character. I was sad to see him die, but he wrote, If you turn into a monster, is it still you inside? What did you think of that note that Sam wrote? Do you feel like he meant it just in one way? Was it meant in different ways?
Yeah, it was just kind of a microcosm of the show. Really, it kind of just summed up what the show, was the burning question of the show. And most post-apocalyptic shows, what happens, to you as a human? Do you become that monster? We kind of rewind ourselves back to almost barbaric times, and like, how do we become? Are we still civilized? During these times. So it was a good question, especially from an innocent kid.
Sometimes it's the innocence that they bring out the most valid points.
Yeah.
And he wrote this letter once he realized that he was bitten after that swarm attacked over in episode 5. But his character being a deaf kid, surviving in this apocalypse, it just proves that it's very difficult for kids to survive in this new world. Like we were all rooting for Sam, and then man, my heart was broken. And I knew what was gonna happen. I was still like, please no. But yeah, man. I really wanted to see more of him. I feel like absolutely you hit it on the nose, Kyle. It's what we become. We go from a civilized society to a world where you can't trust your fellow human, and you're just as scared of the humans as you are the zombies. Whether it be protecting what you have, where you're staying, people are always looting. They make reference to that multiple times in the show. So I felt like I like that question because it really could be interpreted different ways.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. Do you have a favorite episode? I'll start with this one. Let me see. Do I have a favorite episode? I got to go back to episode 5. I love seeing them get out of that city where they were surrounded by the military while they were trying to survive, and they were relying on each other, and Sam's brother had to keep the sanity of his little brother. So he had him drawing things, and he was into being a superhero, and he was like entertaining that young mindset of him still in this new world, and brings us close to that character. I love that thing, seeing them travel through the tunnels and finding their way out, and then running into a sniper. I love that whole aspect. It was an adventure. That one episode, I was on the end of my seat. I wanted to see more. I was rooting for them to get out, regardless of knowing the outcome. So that's my favorite, the 5th episode.
So I think the 5th episode, I agree, was my favorite as well. But the reason is a little bit different. I think the 5th episode was like the blueprint of how they should have done a lot of the other episodes with introducing characters. So the Bill and Frank episode could have been done the same exact way, where you see a short buildup of how the characters ended up where they did, and then you have them interact with the main characters. That was one reason. The other reason was it was one of the only episodes that gave us that survival feeling of the game, where they were stuck in a city, they had to sneak out, and then they encountered not only the bloater, but a whole bunch of different human villains as well. So again, another accurate depiction of the game. And like I said, it was just the blueprint of the way they should have told the stories when you're introducing new characters. You give it about 10-15 minutes of their backstory, and then you bring it together to the story to move forward. That Bill and Frank episode, not to pick on it, because I can also say the same thing with the flashback episode in the mall, but it never moved the story forward. Yeah. It never stopped the story. It went on a complete detour of Joel and Ellie's adventure. Something that could have been done in 10 to 15 minutes. And not to mention, my biggest thing with it, that Bill and Frank episode, it robbed us of an epic scene with Joel and Frank killing a spoiler. I mean, a bloater. I'm not forgetting what they killed. They killed something big. I know they go through some big building and you kill something. So big disappointment. But episode 5 by far the best, and the acting was amazing too.
It was. How about you, Brian?
I like the last 2 episodes. I like action. So, and then also in the 8th episode, Ellie was in the cell
Let me see this. Okay, yeah, the last two were action packed.
So like when Ellie was in the cell, like I'm thinking how is she gonna get out of there? Like and somehow she did, and I enjoyed how she got out.
And you see her learning about them being cannibals.
Yeah, like when she saw it was the ear on the floor, right?
It was the ear on the floor.
Yeah. And then the last episode, when Joel was going crazy. But one thing I liked about that episode is that we didn't mention it yet, and I wanted to mention it earlier. But they showed us like a still shot on the doctor with a bullet in his head, and I was like, "Yo, that right there, that soul shot tells you foreshadows."
Absolutely, yeah.
So
they zoomed in, and the funny thing is, like certain aspects of it, I may forget briefly, and thinking about it again, I'm like, yeah, I know what's gonna happen. I don't really want to kind of like give too much of what's gonna happen season 2, but I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
Just to jump in, I think they're going to change that. I think that's going to be a change for the season 2. I don't think it's going to go the way. I think they're going to step away from the game for that. Just because of how much we love that character, kind of like the Game of Thrones. We killed Jon Snow and then we brought him back. I don't think we're going to go down that path. I don't think HBO is going to go down that path.
But hey, I'm open to however they do it, as long as they do it well. Right? Yeah. As long as they don't give us more of these fucking filler episodes, man.
I don't think Bella Ramsey can carry the show by herself. So that's why I don't think that they can kill him off. For those who haven't played the game, I don't think
that makes sense.
At least not that early. Like, cause that's like one of the few that happens in the first 10 minutes, really, of the game. The second one. So I don't know if but we'll see.
Let's answer our next question. Overall, as a whole, did you like the first season? I feel like we kind of been hinting towards this the whole time with all our answers. I enjoyed it. I was let down. That level of excitement that I had playing the game, I did not have watching this.
No.
I felt like this is a great story to tell. There's a lot to say. There's a lot to show. I also feel like if a certain show is picked up by a certain network, they have limitations of what they can show. Budgets. HBO has a huge budget. What did you spend the budget on? The frog on the key on the piano inside the museum or wherever we saw that? Like, it just feels like I'm not going to say dropping the ball. They're doing a great job. I just feel like they're just kind of just holding back. And you want to experience this, man. We want to experience this again. We want to enjoy this. And I've been more disappointed than satisfied with season 1.
For me, it's like getting ready for a big fight, a big boxing match or UFC fight, and the guy gets knocked out in the first round. That's what it was like. It was just like seriously underwhelming. It was just, I love the game. I think the game may go down as the first one at least, was going to go down as one of the greatest games ever made from action to story. And like you said, it was a perfect storm. HBO with the budget and the story writing, the game, the story's there. Then you had Naughty Dog involved.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. It's rare that you get all those things coming together. You get usually like, great script, we're gonna buy it from you and we're gonna get our own guys. No, they got these guys so they can stay true to its roots and pick what they want to remove and keep on the show.
It was the creative direction. They just went a different direction. I think that we probably would have rather they stayed a little bit more true to the game or a little bit more action. I think that's the biggest thing with the action for me.
Agreed.
I liked. So I'm actually surprised by your reactions, but I thought you guys were gonna like it a little bit more. I liked it with the exception of those long episodes. With an exception of those long episodes, I would rewatch it, and I really did like it. And I did like how they kind of gave some of the voice actors from the video game, different roles in the game. I thought that was cool.
That's a good point. They kept true to the game because they utilized Riley was the same voice that was used for the game. I love that. It was the same character, same voice, right? Also, the voice of Bella was actually played. They put her in the show and they put her as the mom that gave birth to her in the final episode, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got to see how she got her knife and how she became immune.
Well, that was one thing that I did like, because I don't remember in the game how they announced, how they explained that she was immune, you know. But then
they didn't.
Yeah, so like I like that about the show, you know.
They did give us that nice, tasty bit of information, and you got to visualize it. They turned it into a scene. Not to mention that the character who played the mom was the voice on the game. I like that. They did a great job. I'm not saying I didn't like the season. I'm just saying I was disappointed because I try to take it episode by episode, right? I just want them to tell the best version of the story and not dumb it down, and I felt that a couple times.
But just to answer that, Serge, I kind of disagree with you. I don't think they dumbed it down. I think they overcomplicated it. If anything, it was just like these relationships were important, but they were not the game. We went too much into the other sub characters storyline. To me, they also used the actor Joel. He played David, the right hand to the guy who was eating people. I think that was his, an episode, what is that, 8? He played the right hand man.
This question just popped in my head, and I'll ask this. Do you think that the way Walking Dead, being that it's similar in the premise of zombies and what it turns people into, do you feel like the direction and the success of that show, when they decided to put this on the screen, they decided to differentiate enough where they said, hey, let's focus more on this and focus more on this to kind of like just be different? Do you feel like that was a factor, or maybe not?
I think so. I think Walking Dead, a lot of people say it's repetitive, and
the premise of it is all these zombie movies are, but then sometimes you'll watch it and be like, I like the new aspect that they added to it. Once upon a time, zombies just walked. They just walked real slow. And people would say, all you got to do is run faster than them and you'll be all right, right? But then you started watching other versions and they became better because they added another aspect of it. So this is just another aspect of a same told story, but I feel like the storyline has more depth.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say it focuses more on relationships than zombies. Like, it's not a zombie movie. It's like a survival movie.
And ultimately, at the forefront of all the relationships and all the people we see, we are most drawn to the story of Joel and Ellie, being that he's dead inside. He's a scorned father. He's almost like reborn and given another chance with Ellie. And especially in that moment when he grabs her running out of that burning steakhouse and hugs her and goes, "It's okay, baby girl. I got you." Throughout the show, you can see her anger at him being so willing to give her up. And even though he's thinking about her best interests, she's like, I don't care. Why are you leaving me? Don't leave me. How about I still go with you and whatever happens, happens. And I respect that. He's thinking out for her best interest. He's thinking, I can't protect you against everybody. And she's thinking, I don't care as long as we're together, because everyone in my life has left me. So that's very powerful, and it really pulls me into the story, and I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't think that they needed to refer to any other show. They had a whole game that was a hit to refer to. The Walking Dead was The Walking Dead, and it still is The Walking Dead. But I think, like you said, The Last of Us was so much more of a developed story that they really did. I hope they didn't, because they did need to. They just really need to refer to the game to kind of bring this story to life. How are we going to take this from a game and do stuff with real actors that we can do, that we could do in real life that happened in the game. So, but that was a good point, though. Who knows? Maybe there was some influence there. If I think they need to kind of revamp of how they're going to shoot this next season, or it could become a very disappointing show, in my opinion.
With a lot of these shows, whether it be Marvel, whether it be Walking Dead, whether it be this show, being that it has a premise that we're kind of referring to, which is the game, hopefully you get a gauge of the fan base and what pisses them off, what makes them happy. Hopefully they listen enough for this upcoming season and they dive more into it. Or maybe they were like, hey, we got signed on for 2 seasons. Let's save all the juicy parts for who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
For season 2.
But the thing is too, Serge, is the question is like, are there more people watching the show who played the game who didn't? Because one of my friends who never played the game, she thought the show was amazing. And I'm like, yeah, the show is good. The show is decent, but the game is just it's a disservice to the game.
It is.
So
and
that's really the fan base. You know,
I've literally asked people who are not gamers, who have not played the game, and I said, hey, what did you think of it? And I got mostly on the other end of the spectrum. I felt like it left off with a thud. That's what they said, right?
Yeah.
Now, we as gamers know there's so much more story and it gets heavier, right?
Yeah.
But I love hearing the perspective of the average viewer that doesn't have the influence of the game. I want to know, hey, were you excited? Did you think that they did well? What did you think they did better? You know, they could do better with, because these guys have no influence.
No relationship to the game. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes a lot of these hardcore gamers can be unrealistic in their expectations. Like I said, I don't mind when they divert a little bit, just as long as it makes sense. Like, I wasn't mad at the aspect that they took away the aspect of it being airborne, because visually, how would you portray that? It might become a little difficult, but I respect the artistic faction of filming and making it your own. But as long as you give us a good quality product at the end from top to bottom. I felt like when I played the game, I was like, wow, that thing wowed me in every aspect. Visuals, it wowed me in storyline, it wowed me in violence and playability. Like, I was terrified to go in different sections because I was scared what I might encounter. I didn't want to find more ammo because I was scared. I was like, you know what? I'll use a bottle. I'll use a bottle and just try to be a ninja, But that was just my opinion. All right. So let's move on. Does it have rewatch value? I'll start off by saying, no. Oh, yeah. Quick answer. Yeah. What's your quick answer for that? Does it have rewatch value?
No.
Okay. I would say no, it doesn't, because I felt like as watching it one time, I received everything that it gave me. Not to mention, I also watch a lot of YouTube videos that break down the Easter eggs and everything. So I don't need to go back for more. I felt like a lot of the bad guys were taken out in one episode. Instead of a long reign of seeing their reign and their influence and how bad they are, one episode was a good episode. They took out 2 big bad guys that were a big part of the story, each in one episode, which leads to the pacing of the season and the storytelling. So I'm looking forward to the second season. I'm excited for the second season. I hate that I have to wait a whole nother year or whatever. They haven't announced a date, but I don't need to watch it again, in my opinion.
I feel like whenever there's like a new season coming out, I always rewatch the previous season just to refresh myself. But I wouldn't.
Do you have the urge to watch it over again?
Yeah, with an exception of
those filler episodes.
Yeah, like, I enjoyed it for the most part, but I wouldn't rewatch the entire season, but I would rewatch certain episodes.
Okay. Yeah, I could say that. Like, if I caught certain episodes on TV, I can't say I would turn it away. Hurry up and come back, right? All right, the biggest question of all. Was Joel right or wrong for saving Ellie from dying because he didn't want her to die in order to just try to achieve a cure? And then lying to her and telling her that they were unable to get a cure and made it seem like, hey, listen, like, we tried. Let's live our lives. Was he wrong for that, or was he right? Or do you agree with him? That's a big question.
That's a 2-part question, right? Because it's 2 things that happened. So was he right? I asked myself, if that was my girlfriend, or if that was somebody I cared about, would I be okay with that? And I don't know. I'm leaning towards no. I wouldn't allow it. But and the other part was he wrong by lying to her? I think that one is a little bit more easier to answer as far as like, not only did he tell her he not tell the truth, he made up a whole nother story of what happened too. And he made her think that there were other people, and he took literally the hope away from her that things can ever get better.
He realized that he had to. He had to, because of as inquisitive as she was, as dedicated to this. There was other times in the story where he was like, we don't have to keep going through this. We could just go back and live a life and be happy over there. And she was like, no, I want to see this through. So I think he felt he had to.
But you know what I think would have made that? See, I think it's all connected, right? What would have made that scene? It would have raised the stakes if we would have saw how bad the world really was. I don't think that they set up, as far as the storytelling standpoint, how bad the world really was, because we didn't see it. We heard stories, we saw the aftermath, but we never saw how bad the world was and how survival looked for them. So it just looked like there was I Am Legend, really, just walking around by themselves and people are trying to do stuff. We never got that, like how bad the world is. Like we hear it. We see it early in the season though, when we go to I think we go overseas when the professors like just bomb the city. Like we saw it then, but throughout the season we didn't see how bad it really was. So I think that question is a little bit more complicated when you see how bad the world really was. But to answer your question and not ramble, I don't know if he was wrong for not killing her, letting her die, but I do think he was wrong for making up a story.
There's no right or wrong answer, especially in what the world has become. What do you think, Brian?
I think it depends on who you are, because from Joel's perspective, I feel like he, in his mind, he was like, I'm not going to lose two, like he already lost his daughter. He's not going to lose a second. And, I think it was selfish, but if you put yourself in that person's shoes, I think most people would do the same thing. They live like 20 plus years with these circumstances, so at that point it's normal. So it's like, okay, so we don't find a cure. These clickers and all these zombies are kind of normal now. So like this is part of life. So I feel like he was like, all right, this is life now.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know. I think it depends who you are. But I personally, if I was in Joel's shoes, I don't think he was wrong. If I was anybody else, then of course I would think it's wrong.
I feel like this question was a very good question to ask, because it lingers with all of us. For someone you love, what are you willing to do, right? For a man that lost his daughter when he was her protector, and then holds that over himself for a long time. Also, to add to your point, it didn't feel like 20 years. Watching this season, it didn't feel like 20 years has passed.
Yeah.
They traveled through this map of through the country, and it didn't feel like such a long period in time. And that is important in the decision making, right? Once Joel came across the group where his brother was at, and he got married, and he had a new life, and he changed his life, and he was loyal to that life. Joel had that option in the back of his head. He said, I got to get her over there, but you know what? We could renege and just live here. He didn't have that option before.
Yeah.
Now he's grown close with this girl who has become a daughter to him. He's her protector. He failed with his own daughter. I'm not going to fail again. I'm not going to let you get to her. I'm not going to sacrifice her without the promise of it benefiting everybody. Also, you now live in a world where everyone is out for themselves. So what's wrong with him being a little selfish and saying, you know what? I'm saving my daughter. I'm keeping her. Let's live someplace for the rest of our lives and just ignore whatever was going on. I understand it completely. From the perspective of the bigger picture, Was he wrong? He could have been.
From a bigger picture standpoint, he was absolutely wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
From a
big picture standpoint, he was wrong. But what says that they would have been able to prove or create a way that's going to save other people? Her life could have been in vain, right? Oh, well, we tried. Well, guess what? He valued who she was and his love for her a whole lot more than trusting in what science and what they can do with their diminished facilities. He figured, like, you know what? I choose my own judgment. Fuck you. I don't trust you. You know, this world is not based on trust anymore. It's based on protecting what you have. And that's what he did. So I felt like it was a great question to kind of like have the storyline circle and be part of. But hey, man, I think I agree with him. I agree with him in protecting what you love. Ultimately, what do we do? If this world goes south tomorrow, what are we gonna do? We're gonna protect our homes, right? You're gonna protect your wife, you're gonna protect your lady, your kids, you're gonna protect your home base, and that's what he was doing. And I love the question. I love the script writing for this, which is what drew me to the game. I love that aspect of the show.
Fair enough.
Did I ask this question? What would you like to see done differently for the upcoming?
No. I got a lot of critique here.
What would you like to see done differently? What would you like to see done differently?
I don't know. I was pretty content with it.
Okay, so, your answer could be that you were content. Okay.
Well, you know what? With an exception of the long filler episodes and then the lack of zombies too.
Okay.
So I feel like
you mean like more development of the story, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. I'll let you end this, Kyle. So I would say, what would I like to see done differently? Just touching on that, I would like to see more development. What makes shows stand out against other shows is the ability to develop characters, to create a more in-depth storyline. And I feel like they have the ability to do that here. So I want a more real visual of them surviving, of them going through whatever they have to go through, because that's a big part of it. That's going to be a big part of your judgment skills. Like, you're going to judge things and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be as risky in going into that next unknown area, because you know what? It was so hard to survive this one. I don't know if we could survive another one. You know, that's a big part of it. Also, the bloaters and the clickers and the Rat King, they get pretty intense, and I really want to see if they touch that and how deep they go into it, or if they can. Maybe they can't portray it on the screen. Who knows? But that's what I like to see.
The Rat King was in the second game, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to replay it because I don't remember much about the second game, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm gonna replay it.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna play both of them actually.
So Kyle,
so for me,
give me what you got.
All right. What I have liked to see done differently was, one, the technology advancements. I thought that was a little fake. The fact that it's been 20 years and we are still not have cell phones or anything up yet, just because of how society is now. I think that we would have bounced back in 20 years. I think that we would have been bounced back a little bit better than that. We're, using radio and yeah, I think so. But
maybe it's just adding to the story, to add more drama to the story.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah, but the fact that she was using a Walkman in 2003 or whenever 2007 or whatever, that was a little off to me, because we wasn't using Walkmans at that point. So that was a lot, the fact that she was.
I think maybe we had to rewind and go to our more reliable, primitive versions of our technology. Listen, I'm glad she was using a Walkman, man, because I had to use a Walkman growing up. Damn it!
I got you. Yeah. Again, like I think you guys both mentioned it, more clickers. We need more clickers. We need more. I feel I need more survival like scenes. I need to feel like they need to survive more. I think they need to stop the time jumps. It worked on Game of Thrones, this House of Dragons. I don't think it works really well on this show because that show, the game is about chemistry, and they kind of skip a lot of their chemistry between Joel and Ellie.
They have to choose what they focus on.
Yeah. And I just really wanted to show how bad the world really was. I didn't feel like it. I just felt like they were taking a nature walk, and like I said, a whole bunch of good, cool, creative production sets. It was the production sets were amazing. I thought that was cool. But the last thing is, telling the story, in a more of a progressive way, like they did in episode 5, where they didn't waste the whole episode trying to fill in some characters. I think that kind of drew the story out in a way that like come on, y'all, we wasted a whole hour on this story that that didn't mean anything. And I was pointing out to my girlfriend that we knew some of the episodes didn't matter because when they was doing a season finale, they did a recap, and a lot of the stuff that happened in those shows was not even in the recap. So it proves that it had no value to the actual story.
It had no value to the to updating people what happened. Absolutely,
yeah. So that was my only critiques, but I think I gotta disagree with Brian. I like Bella Ramsey as of Ellie.
You didn't at first.
I didn't at first, but she grew on me. Yeah, she grew on me.
That's what I told you. I said let's see what happens. How do I feel about Bella? I'm okay with her. I'm okay with her, but I see his point in terms of
I see both sides of it. Yeah,
I absolutely see his point in terms of like seeing like acting goes beyond just what you're saying. It goes what you look like. Obviously somebody's look will lend more believability towards another specific roles, right? So you're right, but I think there's a lot of people out there that are saying, hey, we should recast her, which I don't think we should. It's too, we've committed, right? And HBO has said to show that they back her up, we are not recasting her, and the only way we will recast her if she doesn't want to be in.
Wait, recast who?
Bella.
You said they're not recasting her?
They're not recasting her. Because a lot of fans were torn. Like some of them were like, I like her, and some other people were like, get someone else, right?
Okay.
And HBO was like, no, they basically said in a statement, hey, we back her up. We love her. The only way we won't have her is if she wants out, and she doesn't want out.
Okay. So they're sticking with her.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I like that. I like that. I don't want no change.
My last point, and I forgot to mention, was chemistry, right? Their chemistry, Bella and Pedro, was better at the beginning of the show where they didn't like each other. And I feel like it dropped off when they got closer. It was like, yo, these two it felt awkward a little bit when he's trying to be emotionally there for her. But when they was going at each other, I was like, oh, this is gonna be, they had like a good contrast, and it was good to see on screen, but it kind of fell off to me.
The most powerful scene is when he told her that you're luggage. Like he just basically said, like, you're a package. I got to deliver you. That's it. But he was cold, withdrawn, and cut out from the world. In the first episode, he was literally dumping bodies to burn. You need a level of coldness to be able to handle that job. What he became is not something he was proud of. But his best skills helped him get through the storyline. He was, he went through there and he was taking these guys out. He was commando that shit up.
Commando.
What would be interesting for season 2 if we get to see Joel and his brother go through the Fireflies and learn those skills that he acquired. Because he was just he was a contractor. I think he was landing concrete. He was a concrete layer, cement layer.
I like how he said he told Bella that contractors are trustworthy.
Yeah. So it would be cool to see how they, his progression. Maybe, if they can make him look younger again, and they kind of go through some of those missions, but he's conflicted, and how he departs from his brother that would be interesting.
Definitely. So I think we talked enough about this, man. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Thank you guys for watching, for being a part of this season. I'd love to hear your feedback on what you expect and what you would like to see going forward. On to the next one, man. We'll see you when the next one comes back. Feel free to comment on YouTube. Check us out on YouTube, Media Chop Up, Also, I have a Facebook chat. If you would like to be a part of that, let me know. Signing off to you from an undisclosed location. My name is Serge. Remember, guys, do what you love and love what you do. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace, y'all.
Take care, guys.
Later.